back in the house. Says I've been shot at.
Right now at 5, a Colorado man confronts two people trying to steal the catalytic converter from his SUV.
I'm shocked. I'm so shocked. I'm still in awe. How did this happen here?
Tonight, how you can protect yourself from this skyrocketing trend.
A Ukrainian power plant falls under a barrage of Russian missiles.
Mr. Putin must stop this madness.
How world leaders are trying to step in.
Plus, an escape artist steer has returned home.
And first tonight, we have a Denver 7 weather action day in effect. Quiet in the mountains right now, but a big snowstorm is heading our way, and it will impact the Front Range as well. Happy Friday to you all, and thank you so much for joining us today for Denver 7 News at 5. I'm Ann Trujillo.
I'm Shannon Ogden. Glad you're with us tonight. We're going to begin with meteorologist Stacey Donaldson. Stace, it looks like conditions are going to deteriorate throughout the night.
That's what it looks like, and that's why we are under this weather action day as this cold front and low pressure area come right on into Colorado tonight. So things will start to change later on. At this point, we have some rain and snow developing here to our southwest and moving on up to the north. So we're going to see some of that push into the Front Range as we get toward the later evening hours. We have a lot of winter weather advisories for snowfall that started about 11 o'clock tonight, stretching from Sterling to Greeley to Fort Collins, all the way through our northern and central mountains down into the southwest toward Telluride, even a winter storm warning north of Pagosa Springs for up to 19 inches of snow before all is said and done. So this winter weather advisory starts tonight, lasts until Sunday morning off to our north. So we're keeping a close eye on the snow that will be moving in. And for later tonight, we'll start it out as rainfall, temperatures dropping into the 40s, and then that snowfall on the horizon. We'll talk more about snowfall totals and what you can expect in your neighborhood coming up.
All right, we'll see you in a little bit. Thank you, Stacey. Catalytic converters are a popular target for thieves. In fact, this morning, an attempted theft nearly cost a man his life.
He confronted two men trying to steal a converter off his SUV in his driveway. Denver 7's Rob Harris heard from the man's wife, who is concerned about this alarming trend.
I'm shocked. I'm so shocked. I'm still in awe. How did this happen here? So it was daylight.
It was just after 6 Friday morning. Jacqueline Garrick's husband heard a noise outside their window.
He was trying to figure out what was going on. It was sounded like a grinder or something going.
Garrick's husband stepped outside to find an extra car in their driveway.
He came around to our green Honda and was looking, and the guy smiled at him, and he thought that was weird. And then he turned around. There was a guy underneath the car coming out with a sawzall, trying to get around my husband. My husband grabbed him, pinned him up against the car. At that point, the guy in the car came out.
Garrick had stumbled upon a group of men after the catalytic converter on his Honda, and he was bravely trying to stop them in their tracks. But that's when things took an unexpected turn.
The guy pulled out a gun, aimed it at my husband, said, "Let the guy go." My husband said no. He said, "You just need to leave," and he then pointed the gun at my husband's head and fired. Luckily, it missed.
From inside the house, Jacqueline heard the pop of the gunshot, but she figured it was just the sound of a car on the nearby busy road. Little did she know, her husband had just escaped death by literally millimeters.
My husband comes running back in the house, says I've been shot at. I was walking out of the bedroom and I'm like, "You've been shot at?" And he said, "Yes, I've been shot at. Call the police." You don't think it's going to happen, in your own yard.
Garrick's husband didn't want to go on camera after his experience this morning, but I do want to give you some perspective on how much this problem is growing in Colorado. So as of 2019, there were less than 200 reported thefts of these catalytic converters. By the year 2020, that had jumped to more than 1,100. And by last year, 2021, more than 9,800 reported thefts. That's an increase of more than 5,000% over 3 years. And that increase has our law enforcement and even the state legislature trying to find ways to make the stealing of these converters less attractive. But in the meantime, it's clear that thieves are now willing to even kill to get them. Rob Harris, Denver 7.
Incredible. And that legislation Rob just mentioned is making its way through the state Senate right now. It would require auto parts recyclers to consult with the National Motor Vehicle Information System to determine whether a catalytic converter was stolen.
Now, the price of metal used to make catalytic converters is rising because of the crisis in Ukraine, and that means it's more important than ever to protect your car. Russia is the leading producer of palladium. It is the key component in making catalytic converters. And experts say even if the hostility in Ukraine ended tomorrow, it will take some time for the supply chain to recover.
Tonight, Europe's largest nuclear power plant is occupied by Russian troops. An international nuclear watchdog says despite attacks on the grounds of this plant, no radioactive material has been released. Here's ABC's Faith Abube with concerns about what Russia might do next.
Tonight, more heartbreaking scenes of the devastation Russia's war is unleashing in Ukraine. Family photos and children's toys covered in dust after explosions rocked residential buildings in the northern city of Irpin. Neighbors salvaging some of their belongings and then using a ladder to get out of the shelled building.
Unfortunately, tragically, horrifically, this may not be over soon.
Both NATO and the UN Security Council holding emergency meetings Friday to condemn Russia's attack on Europe's largest nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Fortunately, the plant's nuclear reactors were not hit, but rescue workers spent hours overnight putting out a massive fire at an administrative building on the grounds. Russian forces say they now control the nuclear facility. Ukraine's President Zelensky warning an explosion at the nuclear plant would be, quote, the end for everyone, the end for Europe.
Mr. Putin must stop this madness.
Meantime, gunfire and air raid sirens blaring across Ukraine's capital city, Kyiv. Residents bracing for the arrival of that miles-long Russian military convoy, U.S. officials say has stalled about 17 miles away. Russian forces ramping up their attacks, indiscriminately firing on hospitals and civilian targets while moving into key cities. Ukraine's President Zelensky repeating his urgent calls for the U.S. and NATO to impose an immediate no-fly zone over his country. But NATO's Secretary General echoing the White House, rejecting that position.
If we did that, we'll end up with something that could end in a full-fledged war in Europe.
And Ukraine's president wasn't pleased with that answer at all. He called NATO weak and confused. He said NATO will be to blame for civilian deaths from today onward. Faith Abube, ABC News, Washington.
Tomorrow marks 2 years since the first confirmed COVID case in Colorado. Now, over the past 2 years, we've gone from full lockdown to partial lockdown, masks on, masks off, then on again, and several waves of new variants. Today, state health officials said we're in a good place, but they are ready for anything.
And we are prepared if a more contagious variant outcompetes Omicron or is better at evading our immune systems. We also don't know the level to which immunity will wane by next winter.
Now, since Colorado's first COVID case 2 years ago, 1.3 million people have been infected, more than 60,000 hospitalized, and 12,500 people have died.
Houdini's latest disappearing act has come to an end. That pesky steer, who is named after the escape artist, has been found safely in Weld County. We told you about this 4-H cow this week. 13-year-old Alexander reached out to us saying Houdini got away while out on a walk. Well, Alexander says they found him last night, and he shared these pictures with us.
The city of Aurora has mixed messages on how it wants to combat youth violence.
I was frustrated. I was really frustrated.
After previously voting against more funding for prevention, the city is now offering up grant money.
There's been like an aha moment that there needs to be funding out there for organizations.
Plus, Colorado Democrats want to include reproductive freedom into state law.